Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Maria Sokolova. I am clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, ICC certified advanced level schema therapist for individuals and couples, schema therapy for couples programs director, trainer, and supervisor. Co-author of the practitioner's guide for couples schema therapists together with Eckhart Rödiger and Ivan Gorbachev. And I volunteer for the ISST as ISST Members Skill Development Coordinator. Okay, so what we will discuss today with you. In my presentation, I'm going to highlight the differences between so-called primary and secondary mode cycles. I will focus on the reasons why it is important to diagnose primary and secondary mode cycles. After that, we will discuss a theoretical background I'm basing on. More than that, I will give you several examples based on my personal practice. And finally, we will discuss with you when and how to conceptualize primary and secondary mode cycles and how to use it during therapy. Okay, let's go. To begin with, I would like to introduce or to remind you, if you know that, what we mean when speaking about schemas and coping modes in schema therapy. In schema therapy, schemas are deeply ingrained patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that develop in our early experience, usually in childhood. They originate from unmet emotional needs and are repeated throughout a person's life. These schemas act as frameworks or mental filters that influence how people view themselves, others, and the world. The key idea of schema therapy is to heal schemas and to satisfy unmet emotional needs. Coping modes. Coping modes are the strategies people develop to endure the pain of early maladaptive schemas. These coping modes, which can be understood in fight, flight, and freeze responses, were initially adaptive in childhood but become dysfunctional in adulthood by reinforcing the very schemas they were created to manage. When we work with couples, we are used to speak about coping modes clash cycles. Let's imagine that we have two partners in our office. Let's call them Mia and Alex. Mia is a dominant partner. What do I mean? If there is a problem and their relationship is under stress, Mia wants to solve the problem using overcompensation, coping mode. She tries to deliver her thoughts, her feelings to reach her partner by complaining, criticizing, and being demanding. And the more dominant Mia is, the more detached Alex is. Feeling overwhelmed and attacked, Alex responds by emotionally or physically shutting down. He might distance, become silent, or try to change the subject. That further triggers Mia. The more he avoids and turns away from her, the more disconnected she feels and the more pursuing she becomes. As a result, we speak about a vicious circle or a mode clash cycle. Okay. So, usually we see those vicious circles when a couple comes to our office, but do we always see everything? To understand that, we have to answer several questions. Firstly, after what point have a couple come to therapy? And usually they come to therapy when their basic mode cycle stopped working, when it changed to another one. So it is connected with the second question: was their interaction always the same as it is now? And one more question: why are the partners not motivated to do the therapy? Sometimes we can feel as therapists that we cannot understand the couple. We cannot feel it. We have this inner feeling that we do not see the full picture. And the search for answers to these questions will help us to find not only visible or secondary mode cycles, but to go deeper in the basic or non-obvious cycles of mode clashes that occur in some couples. Why do we need to know about primary mode cycles? It will help us to conceptualize better, to understand the plan of our therapy better and its goals. Except that when partners feel that they are heard, that they are understood, hope comes. They think, okay, well, the therapist seems to understand us, to understand me, so maybe he or she can help us. And their commitment to therapy increases. So we need to understand their problems, to understand their emotional needs that are hidden, beside those problems and besides this mode cycles better. And to make my ideas more vivid, I want you to watch the video from the movie My King. Maybe you have watched it already, so please try to forget everything and to look only at the interaction pattern that you see now in this scene. Just imagine that this couple, their names are Jovani and Tani, come to us, and they start describing their problems. He seems being kind in a healthy adult mode, rather calm, rational, and even caring. And he gives us examples of their big clashes and describes her hysterics. And how he tries to calm her down, but she just cries at him. And that is what's really hard to tolerate for him. She can seem being ashamed and she keeps silence maybe. So let's watch what clashes they describe. This one.
Oui, tu vois, tu commences à te faire n'importe quoi.
T'es jalouse?
Non.
Arrête!
Mais qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Je t'ai vu, t'es
Non,
jalouse!
ça va.
Tu me regardais, genre! Tu crois que j'ai piqué ton mec ou quoi? Eh, moi, je pique pas les mecs! Mais regarde-moi quand je te parle! Regarde-moi quand je te parle! Eh, moi, je pique pas les mecs des autres!
Bon, ok, très bien.
Parce que moi, j'ai un mec que j'aime!
Giorgio, ton amoureux.
Ok.
Mon amour,
Ok.
mon amour, mon amour, mon amour.
Allez. Ah putain, hé. Calme.
En fait, oui, mon
Ok,
fait.
ok, bâche.
Attention, tu vas te faire mal. Tu vas te faire mal. Tu vas te faire mal.
Hé.
Arrête.
On se calme.
Tu as fait faire une annonce.
Oh, alors fais l'annonce sur le verre. Ok.
Vas-y.
Hey!
Ouais.
T'as bois de l'eau.
Écoutez-moi.
Bois de l'eau, Tony.
Ah, c'est toi, toi.
Oh.
Vous savez ce qu'on fait ce soir? C'est Giorgio qui va vous l'annoncer. Giorgio, lève-toi.
Allez, Giorgio.
Vas-y, dis-leur. Alors moi, je vais vous dire ce qu'on fait. Giorgio va faire une thérapie.
Okay, so if I ask you, what modes do you see here on the front stage? Firstly, what can you see about her coping mode? Using Eckhart Rödiger's 2-legs model, we can offer 3 options. Is she more dominant, more avoidant, or more submissive? And the answer seems to be rather obvious. She's on her red leg. That means she's more dominant, and she's shouting at him, she's criticizing him, and in general, she seems to be rather aggressive. So that is why there is a red chair, her red leg, the overcompensation mode on the front stage. As for him, he seems to be more blue. Detaching from her, sometimes being submissive or even being in a healthy adult mode, trying to be assertive when he is trying to stop her in a rather healthy, not very pushy way, but then he capitulates. And that's why we see this blue chair on the front stage. And what are their block sites that we have to concentrate on during our therapy? Her block site is a vulnerable site, this blue heart on the backstage. And we need to work on it to unblock it, making observable her deeper feelings that stand behind anger, such as despair, maybe sadness, and so on. As for him, his blocked part that can be our target of our therapy is his assertive part. Giorgio, who can demonstrate his healthy assertiveness and set limits. But what if their life usually look like this?
Tony, je t'aime, je veux cet enfant. Mais 24 heures sur 24 avec toi, je peux pas. Donc j'ai trouvé ce petit truc, juste là, là. Genre 3 immeubles plus loin, dans le même pâté de maison. T'as même pas besoin de traverser une rue. Un petit meublé. J'emmène 3 affaires, des slips, une brosse à dents, pour quand j'ai pas le temps de repasser ici. Je serai là tout le temps, ici. Mais quand j'ai envie de me retrouver un peu tout seul, quand je vois qu'on s'engueule, tu vois, quand on commence à se bouffer le nez un peu. J'en ai parlé au médecin, il m'a dit que c'était une bonne idée. Que ça sert à rien de créer du stress inutilement.
Tu pars quand?
Écoute, je vais voir, je crois que le proprio me file les clés là, début de semaine prochaine. Tu verras, ça sera mieux. Pour toi, pour moi, pour le bébé surtout. On va vivre que les bons moments ensemble. C'est ça qu'on se voit, on va recommencer à rire, tu vois. On a perdu tout ça.
So, what can we see here? It seems that Giorgio is concentrated on his own life. He seems to be rather self-centered, not paying attention to her needs and feelings, actually not taking her into account. He leaves pregnant Tony at home, going to bars with his friends and other women, and even plans to move to another place, to have no obstacles to do what he wants to do. He has no other option but to capitulate and to tolerate that. So now we have another targets, and we will focus on development his empathic and compassionate side, and on setting realistic limits to him. As for her, we need to develop her assertive side to help her in setting limits and in considering her own needs. In schema therapy, we do not have definitions of primary and secondary cycles yet. But there is something like that in emotional focused therapy of Sue Johnson, who told us about 5 types of negative interaction cycles that are driven by disruption in emotional connection of partners. The basic interaction cycle is a pursuer withdrawer cycle. That is the most common cycle. Based on that, she introduces other cycles that come from the first one, but actually describe different types of pursuing and withdrawing. And we can see the last one cycle that is called the reactive cycle. That means that the pursuer becomes a withdrawer and a withdrawer becomes a pursuer. So they behave vice versa. What about schema therapy? Now we turn to the model of Eckhart Rödiger. I would like to remind you that our schemas are based on frustrated emotional needs, and they are a kind of roots of our personality tree. Our target in therapy is to reach schemas, activate them, and to change them by satisfying emotional needs. If we do couple schema therapy, it is better that the partner can satisfy those emotional needs. And we can reach schemas through our emotions and through our body feelings that we call child modes, and through beliefs that we call critic modes in schema therapy. Coping modes are closer to leaves that we see on the surface, and there is a big variety of different kinds of leaves. But often those leaves prevent us from going deeper to the trunk and then to the roots. Here is the picture that illustrates that the idea of spectrum. We do not have just this leaf and that leaf and the middle right leaf, the middle left leaf, and so on. So we don't have a certain set of leaves that we call box thinking. We have a continuum or a spectrum of different coping modes in contextual schema therapy and in couples schema therapy. So we speak about leaves of various colors. And the spectrum varies from blue, deep blue to red. And from sky blue or pink to dark blue and dark red on the bottom. Blue coping modes are all types of submission and self-sacrificing on the dysfunctional level. What I mean by dysfunctional level, I mean that emotional needs cannot be satisfied here. If we move upper to the healthy adult level, we move closer to acceptance and cooperation on the blue part of the spectrum, on our blue leg. Then we slowly move to the right for different types of detachment. More blue anxious protectors, detached protectors, reddish angry protectors, self-soothing modes, to the red modes like fighting, shouting, threatening on the lowest level, moving up to demands, compliance, to healthy assertiveness and problem solving. So I hope that I have delivered the idea of spectrum to you that is more productive to think in continuums than in boxes like we do in DSM-5 or ICD-11. So there are many different coping modes and even more possible combinations of those coping modes when we speak about mode cycles. But to make it rather simple for our clients, we speak about 3 coping styles. So we ask, is Mia here more submissive, more dominant, or more detached? Yeah, more withdrawing. But let me give you several examples when it can be critical to our therapy to see hidden mode cycles. The first example and the first couple is Tanya and Dan. They come to the therapist, and Dan seems to be kind of in a healthy adult mode, but he is on his blue leg, showing love and care about their relationship, and he says that their relationship are rather detached, and he doesn't like it, and he wants to feel more connected to Tanya. And Tanya is withdrawing and seems to be a detached partner. So we can conceptualize the cycle that we can see on the session as assertive Dan and detached Tanya. But let's read their story of their relationship. Let me read it to you. Tanya and Dan have been dating for a year and a half. It all started beautifully. Long walks till dawn, spontaneous trips, heartfelt confessions and surprises, hints about their dream wedding come soon. They were both romantic, passionate, and easily caught fire. But over time, things got more complicated. Tanya would get hurt, go silent, wait, drop hints, and then explode, sometimes because of kisses different. Baby, let's talk later. sometimes because of evenings spent in front of his laptop. Whenever she tried to have a serious and emotional conversation, Dan would respond with silence. He'd dive into work, pretend not to hear, or simply leave the room. At first, Tanya fought for their relationship. She talked, demanded, tried to shake things up. She really wanted to finally reach him. But the more effort she made, the further he withdrew. At some point, Tanya gave up. She stopped waiting and hoping and started focusing on her own life, meeting with friends, making plans on her own without asking his opinion. Deep down, she realized that she could only rely on herself now. Tanya threw herself into work, saving up to rent her own place and move out. And that's when Dan got alarmed. He started saying more often that sometimes needs to be changed, suggested seeing a therapist and try to restore their closeness. But Tanya was already looking at him as if from afar. She was tired of being angry, and after so much emotional burnout from fighting for love, there was almost nothing left inside. Still, somewhere deep down, a small spark of hope remained, and she told Dan to find a therapist himself if he still wanted to try. So, what we see here is the typical reactive or vice versa cycle that we have seen in Sue Johnson's model. And we can understand that initially Tanya was a dominant partner and Dan was in his anxious protector coping mode. And if we do not see it, we will not understand that the main emotional need of Tanya is to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be cared. And as well, Dan wants to have his own space and to feel safe. Okay, let's go to the next partner. Next step. Here Margo and Kyrill. In the office, the therapist can observe complaining Margo and Kyrill, who protects himself in an angry way. And their circle, their mode cycle can be conceptualized as compliant surrender, as we call it, red in a blue shell, and angry protector, coping modes. Let's read their love story. Margo and Kyrill met at a business meeting. She represented the sales department of a large company, confident, vibrant, quick in her movements, with a sharp and focused gaze. Kyrill had nothing to do with sales or negotiations. He was a technical support manager who came in to connect a monitor and display Margot's presentation from her laptop. Their hands accidentally touched, she looked up and half-jokingly asked if he could fix her windows that evening. A year later, they were married, and another year later, their son Mark was born. Margo quickly took on the role of the family organizer. She decided where they would live, how to manage their finances, and which kindergarten Mark would attend. Soon, Margo was promoted and began traveling frequently for work. After work, she would visit a beautician or go shopping. It was important for her to maintain her new status. When Margo suggested that Kyrill quit his job and stay home with Mark, Kyrill hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. She explained it simply. It will be better this way. You do not earn much anyway. We spend almost all of it on nannies. Gradually, this role became a trap for him. From the outside, their family looked prosperous. Margo, well-groomed, energetic, always in control. Kyrill, the modern, hands-on father. But beneath the surface, tension was growing. Kyrill increasingly felt powerless, and his words were never taken seriously. Sometimes his frustration broke through. He would slam his hand on the table, yell, or insult Margo. She would become frightened and leave, and later say she wouldn't live in violence. For Kyrill, however, those outbursts were the only way to release the anger he had been holding in. And after each apology and calm period, it all eventually happened again. Let's go to the hidden mode cycles. what we can see here, the cycle that is closer to the surface is this aggressive Kyrill and detaching Margo cycle. When he overcompensates, he becomes aggressive, he really shows emotional violence, and she detaches. But there is one more hidden cycle. And it includes the coping modes of autonomous Margo, who is in her autonomous detachment and self-soothing coping modes, and accepting Kyrill, who is in submission coping mode. And the third couple I would like to show you today, it is Alex and Alice. Please meet them. What can the therapist see on the session? Attacking Alice, who shows her anger and behaves rather aggressively, criticizes him, and so on. And Alex, who protects himself in an anxious way. And that is the overcompensation detachment mode cycle. What about their story? Alex and Alice met at a conference in Prague. They argued about books and movies until morning. And then they spent nice texting each other. The romance, the long distance for the few first months was passionate and intense. 6 months later, Alex suggested that Alice move to his city. He helped her to get a job as a marketing specialist at a creative agency where he himself worked as a designer. The first few months seemed almost perfect. New friends, exciting projects, a sense of being part of a team. But at home, the celebration started to fade. The problem wasn't in their relationship. The spark of love was still there, but in Alex's complete lack of structure. Clothes on the floor, marks all over the house, constant lateness. That was just normal for him. In the mornings, Alice would gather the documents he had definitely left on the table yesterday and call a taxi herself so they wouldn't be late for common meetings. In the evenings, after coming home from work, she would go do laundry, clean, wash dishes, and Alex, walking by, would just put another mark on her laptop. Alice got used to adjusting, cleaning up after him, reminded him of meetings, keeping things in order. But as time went on, it became increasingly clear that their household didn't consist of two adults. It was her and one big child. Alice smiled less and scolded Alex more, constantly checking whether he'd kept his promises, and gradually their passion began to fade. And here we can think that, yes, maybe Alex has ADHD, but anyway, he's in his undisciplined Alex mode. And Alice, deeply behind, is in the submissive mode because she has to adjust to his autonomous, self-concentrated behavior, even if it is not done on purpose. Okay, so let's move to the next. What are the risks if we do not see a primary cycle of a couple? Actually, if we do not see it, we will not go deeper to their block size and to their emotional needs. And we remember that that is our main goal in schema therapy. Moreover, sometimes the second partner can feel that his or her reality is excluded from our attention focus, and that can lead to dropouts or stagnation in therapy. How can we conceptualize the basic cycle and what can help us? Of course, speaking about couples' history, we can ask them, has their relationship pattern changed over the time they have been together? And if so, what was it like before? What led the couple to seek therapy? We can observe the dynamics of the therapy and gradually go deeper into the backstage of our partner's relationship. What exactly hurts? What are the emotional needs that are being frustrated? Moreover, we can try to understand the function, the intention of their behavior. Why do they behave on the front stage this way or that way? Why is she crying on him? We have to try to understand what she really wants. Yes, and maybe she just wants to be closer to him. Okay, and what cycle to start with? Usually, we conceptualize both cycles. But start with secondary cycle that we see in the office, because otherwise it is very difficult to go further sometimes, go deeper to the first layer of the leaves on our tree, and then through the tree trunk to the roots. But even when we start with the visible cycle, we need to conceptualize both cycles to maintain focus and to keep our partners motivated and feeling more visible and understood. Actually, that is what I wanted to tell you today. And I hope that this piece of information of conceptualization will help you in your everyday work. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. You can see my contact details on the slide. And I hope to see you somewhere, for example, in Greece at the conference. Goodbye.